Hello, this is Anthony David Hobbs, AD Hobbs, and this is my review of Jaws 3. Yes, that's right, we're on to number 3 now. And I suppose, is Jaws 3 a good movie? Not really. The special effects are terrible and the acting is getting rather silly and corny, Jaws 1 and Jaws 2, it had quite a serious tone and it had good acting, good performances. Whereas Jaws 3, really bad acting. Now, it had Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. in it, so it didn't have bad actors, just bad directing, It's very smarmy and very patronising the way the tone is. It's more like a little kid's film, And yet, it's supposed to be a scary film. It's hard to take the horror seriously when these silly people talking like they're 5-year-olds or simpletons, So we have a total 108 degrees change from the style of the last Jaws film. I have some visual aid this time, not very good, but here it is. It's 3D glasses, yeah. And because in the 1950s, this is more or less what 3D glasses look like, and in the early 1980s, 3D made a comeback, and this is what they look like, yeah. So that's 3D glasses with the the red lens and the blue lens, yeah. And well, I guess they wanted to show that we've improved the 3D technology, so come and see this film. And Jaws 3, also known as Jaws 3D, because it's number 3, so yes, good pun there, the 3D on there. But nowadays, when we think 3D, we think glasses like this, made of plastic, like that, yeah. And as you can see, these 3D glasses are dust, they're gathering dust. Because I'm not that big a fan of 3D. I mean, I don't mind it. I just don't like the way that cinemas are overdosing on it now. It's just everywhere. Okay for a short time, but not forever, And I don't know for certain, but this is just a guess. Jaws 3, released in 1983, it disappointed a lot of fans because it wasn't as good as 1 and 2. And then afterwards, they stopped doing 3D in cinemas. Could it be because of the disappointment of Jaws 3, or were they just going to stop 3D anyway? Anyway, I'd just like to say this, though. In the 1950s, when they made a 3D movie, they did it to compete with television, you could only see it in 3D. You couldn't see a regular version, that wasn't an option. But in the 1980s they found a way to make it 3D but make the same movie 2D as well. So you can watch Jaws 3 in 3D, and then when you get bored of that, watch the regular version. So there we are. So you have the option, you can do that. And another 3D film that was number 3 was Friday the 13th Part 3, yeah. Anyway, I think Jaws 3, not as good as the others. Well, is it the worst one, or is that Jaws 4? Well, that's debatable, Definitely not as good as 1 and 2. But Jaws 3 will always be special to me because it was the first Jaws film I saw. I saw like the last 30-40 minutes of it, and yeah, never seen anything like it. This titan of terror, Because they do take liberties with the size of a shark. A great white shark can be 20 or 25 feet at the very most. This one is 35 feet long. It's absolutely gigantic, yeah. Except, I'll say this. When I was about 20, I saw Jaws 3 all the way through, from start to finish, with no bits cut out, so there were a few gory bits. Only like 12A gore, but yes, a bit gory. Whereas they cut bits out the first time I saw it. Anyway, when I saw it properly all the way through, we see this great white shark that's only about 10 feet long. So, okay, a bit more believable this time. We have a more believable shark. They take it into captivity, but because it's not looked after well, it dies. Then we see another shark, its mother, that's 35 feet long. And I was like, oh, please. That's ridiculous. That's much too big. But, yeah, I suppose it makes it more horrifying. It makes it more scary, the fact that Jaws is so big. And Jaws is a she this time. It's made clear that it's the mother, Just one point, though. When Bess Armstrong says the baby shark didn't kill Oberman, it must have been its mother did. How do you know it's female? You haven't seen it. But there we are. So yes, I'm going to say some good things and bad things about Jaws 3. I think to sum it up, I'd say it's a good story, a good premise, I'm glad we didn't go to Amity Island again, because that would just be too similar to what we saw before. We're in a totally different location, in Florida, and the idea of it attacking an underwater amusement park, yeah, that was quite a cool idea. That was quite a good concept. just the way the script was executed wasn't very good. So I like the premise, you know, a monster attacking the amusement park, but the character development, the story development could have been better. So Jaws 3 had potential, just could have been executed in a better way. Well, for a start, why are they all talking like simpletons? You know, why has the director told them to do that? Was it to make it more family friendly, so it's not too scary for kids? Well, considering the level of gore in the movie, that is too scary for little kids. I wouldn't recommend anyone under 7 seeing this film. It is pretty grim, you know. I don't think the silly, patronising voices made that any less scary. I know that because I saw Jaws 3 when I was almost 7. Then I saw the first half when I was like 7.5, and the gory bits frightened me a lot. So yes, no level of silly, patronising voices makes it any less scary. And Jaws 3, well, originally Universal was considering doing a parody of Jaws for the sequel called Jaws 3 People Zero, so like a silly version. Then Universal said, no, let's do a serious version. But there are comic bits in it. There's a silly bit, then a serious bit, then another silly bit, then another serious bit. It's like, make up your mind, movie. Do you want to be a serious or do you want to be a comedy? It seems a bit unsure of where it's going, you know. And we have the British guy who knows how to hunt sharks. He talks in a really over-the-top British accent, I don't know, to make it funny. And there's a scene when he's eaten by a shark. This is from a different camera angle we haven't seen before. The camera's inside the shark's belly and we see the mouth crushing him to death. You know, that is pretty terrifying stuff, actually inside the shark, you know. Really feel what it must be like to be eaten by the jaws of death. And then much later in the story, the scene when he smashes through the window and opens his mouth, the British guy is dead, but he hasn't swallowed him properly. We see his hand holding an underwater grenade. Which is kind of insulting to the shark's character. I mean, sharks are not that intelligent, but they do know how to eat things. That's the one thing they've evolved the big mouth for, to eat things. This is Jaws, and she can't even eat something properly. That's ridiculous. And it gets worse. She eats another person, swallows her, and still the person is stuck in her mouth. Now, I know why, because of a plot point. The heroes of the story see the grenade, get a bit of metal, pull the pin out of it, and blow the shark to bits. But it's a bit of a silly, contrived thing. I'm pretty sure a great white would swallow a person, not have someone stuck in their teeth. That's ridiculous. That's bad writing, you know. And well, a bit of silly trivia here. When I first saw Jaws 3, I thought just before the shark smashes the window in the underwater base, I thought they all shouted Jaws! It was like, as if like, oh no, it's Jaws coming, but instead they just go Jaws! They don't really shout anything, they just scream in terror, you know. Yeah. Because at no point in the film, or in any of the Jaws films, do the characters call the monster Jaws. No, never call it that. Just as the audience call it Jaws, they don't, you know, but I didn't know that because it was the first time I'd seen a Jaws film. They didn't shout Jaws, they just went, ah! They screamed in terror, you know. So there we are. And I haven't actually seen Jaws 3 in 3D, but from what I've been told, the reason some of the special effects look so bad is because they would look good in 3D, like when the severed arm is floating, and when the submarine moves, you can see the outline of it. It's obvious it's got a background around it. But there are some people that have seen it in 3D that have told me that no, the effects look bad, regardless, 2D or 3D, you know. Oh, and some more trivia here. Sean Brady and Michael Brady, now grown into men, but there's a scene in the film where one says to the other, your shoes are untied, and he looks down and he hits him like that. That's Back to the Future. That joke was done in Back to the Future, but no, it was done in Jaws 3, 2 years before Back to the Future. And okay, it was funnier in Back to the Future. The style of the joke wasn't very good in Jaws 3, but it's the same joke, so they did it there first. Another Back to the Future connection is, of course, Leah Thompson. She plays, she does the ski show on the water skis, and yes, she was a beauty in her day. Leah Thompson is stunning in Jaws 3. And also, I assumed that SeaWorld Resort was made up for the film. No, it's a real place. Not really a good advert for your resort, is it? A killer shark might eat you all up if you come to SeaWorld, you know. So, yeah, that's a bit odd, you know. But SeaWorld is still here, it's still there, you know, it hasn't been blown to bits like it was in the film, you know, it's still here, still has lots of customers going. And so when I found out SeaWorld was real, that explains why we see shots of dolphins jumping in the air and a big killer whale splashing doing a show like a commercial, like an advert for SeaWorld. Yeah, so, yeah. Anyway, Jaws 3, I thought that was quite an original idea, having the baby shark first, then the big mama shark, but there are a few bits and pieces, loose ends, that could have been done a bit better. And, oh yeah, speaking of originality, in the movie Orca Killer Whale, made in 1977, that's about a killer whale that wants revenge for the death of his wife and baby, you know, because these people kill his wife and the female orca and the baby by accident, not on purpose, and he wants revenge. But that movie flopped. Jaws 3, a mama shark wants revenge for the death of her baby. Well, what were the writers thinking? Didn't anyone say, Orca Killer Whale flopped? That you're doing the same idea as Orca, but... So Orca rips off Jaws, and then a Jaws movie rips off the Orca Killer Whale film, so... Word of advice, don't rip off a film that was a flop. You know, I can understand copying a big hit film, but don't copy a flop, you know. And I don't know, but in spite of what I've said, Jaws 3D is better than Orca Killer Whale film. Definitely better, yeah. So, same idea, just executed slightly better, yeah. And also, you know, when I saw Jaws 3, I'd never been to an underwater amusement thing like that, so it was pretty exciting stuff, like something out of the future, you know, I'd never seen anything like it, you know. Is Jaws 3, aka Jaws 3D, a good movie? Well, bad acting, bad special effects. So if you can be tolerant of bad special effects, then you might enjoy it. But it's just such a different style from 1 and 2, and none of the original actors from the first two are in it. So if you're in a light humour, you can watch it, because sometimes there are some bits of special effects that look so awful they're laughable, and so Jaws 3 effectively is good for a laugh. It's not supposed to be funny, but it makes you laugh. It's a blessing in disguise, yeah. So in other words, Jaws 3, I like the concept, just didn't like the style, yeah. One good way to sum up Jaws 3 is good story, but rubbish special effects and bad acting. But if those two things could have been improved, it would have been a half-decent movie. So watch Jaws 3 if your expectations are a bit low, and if you're in a light humour, yeah. Okay, that's enough from me, and I've got to go now and have a shave. So take care.